Preparation for the United Nations Association's Test of English. 2 essays, 1. COVID-19 and multilateral diplomacy. 2. UN system in the post-pandemic period.
Background Note 1. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought to many parts of the world a huge economic recession, together with a humanitarian crisis, a security crisis, and a human rights crisis. Policymakers have followed the health specialists' advice of minimizing physical contacts among people. Concrete actions include shortening working hours, encouraging work from home, enforcing social distancing, obliging to wear face masks in public, and the like. The pandemic has clearly signaled the imperative of international cooperation. This is because the solution to the pandemic within a single country could not be sustained unless its national borders were sealed tightly enough for a fairly long period to keep the virus at bay. Question 1. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected the mode of operation in various types of profession, particularly those that involve direct face-to-face contact, communication. Explain, possibly with examples, how multilateral diplomacy, as seen in various forums of the United Nations, UN, system, has also been affected since the outbreak of the pandemic in 2019.
1. Digitalization of diplomatic communications. I would like to point out the pandemic has contributed to the accelerated digitalization of diplomatic communications in the UN system. This is because the congregation of a large number of diplomats, intermingling among themselves together with UN staff, in an enclosed environment is now regarded as too health hazardous.
2. Pre-recorded speech. The Union has recently dramatically accelerated the digitalization of communications with the extensive use of online, video conference. Every year when the General Assembly starts its regular session in September, many heads of state deliver their speech in person at the Assembly Hall. Last September, however, no heads showed up, as the pandemic instead obliged them to send their pre-recorded speech for delivery.
3. Reduced meeting expenses. Digitized diplomacy may effectively overcome the dilemma of multilateralism at the time of a pandemic crisis, as it could keep participants physically away from diplomatic venues. How many diplomats attend UN meetings by sitting in front of a camera at his/her home or office, while UN meeting rooms and facilities often remain deserted? In addition, these video conferences can help policymakers considerably reduce their international travel time and costs, which possibly allow them to partake in more meetings, provided in a virtual mode.
4. Effectiveness. Normally, people do not take the online option for funerals and wedding ceremonies. Of course, there is a limit to compare UN meetings to these ceremonies. In any case, compared with actual speech delivered on the spot at UN forums, pre-recorded speeches cannot be regarded as equally effective in terms of timeliness and attention. It is wondered whether the UN will attract diplomats back again to its conference rooms once the pandemic should settle down.
Background Note 2. We have recently witnessed the conspicuous rise of nationalism, i.e., conservative populism armed with protectionist measures. The COVID-19 pandemic, together with other global-scale crises, has challenged the UN system, particularly the World Health Organization, WHO. Many observers now debate merits and demerits of supporting the UN system. In fact, the debate has been broadened to cover the theme of multilateralism, i.e., purposeful international cooperation beyond bilateral alliances. It should be noted that some critical observers uphold the doomsday scenario of multilateralism and the credibility of the UN system in particular.
Question: while the persistent crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic has underlined the inadequacy of compartmentalized national approaches, it has also challenged the efficacy of existing multilateralism. What will be the fate of multilateralism, the UN system, in the post-pandemic period?
1. Deal-making gatherings. History books often equate multilateralism with conference diplomacy as documented in colorful pictures and photos of deal-making gatherings full of theatrical rituals. Some cynics may characterize conference diplomacy, whether rightly or wrongly, as pompous and leisurely events of hot air than of substantive significance.
2. Outdated type of multilateralism. In a similar fashion, many observers are now critical toward the UN system, arguing that its constituent institutions have unduly formalized, routinized multilateral diplomacy. Some are ready to dismiss multinationalism as irrelevant to the public at the grassroots level. This outdated type of multilateralism must be juxtaposed with many new types that have been mushrooming.
3. Diversified channels. We should recognize the growing trends of diversity among multilateral cooperative channels. They have also become multifaceted in the mode of operation. Multilateral establishments have continued to diversify in terms of memberships and functions. Some are small in size and narrow in focus, while others are larger and multifunctional. Some are open only to either public or non-public institutions' participation, whereas others accept hybrid membership. In a formalistic term, the UN system is a collection of intergovernmental establishments, while the stakeholders in the system have grown to include many non-government actors.
4. Transformation to survive. We expect the intensifying competition for diplomatic spotlights among multilateral cooperative channels in order to win political endorsement and financial support. Clearly, the UN system is increasingly facing the question of relevance and legitimacy. It is therefore possible to expect that the UN system as a whole will further diverse itself by seeking collaboration with outside organizations of all types. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.